Welcome back for another deep dive. This time, we're going deep into Ghanaian politics.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but with a bit of a twist.
Okay.
Instead of diving into the usual facts and figures and all that, we're going to be looking at it through,
For what?
a fictional narrative.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's actually, it's a political thriller.
That's cool. I think it's fascinating how fiction can really help us understand the real world.
Yeah.
By looking at how campaigns work in a story,
Mm-hmm.
we can learn a lot about the challenges that real politicians face.
Totally. And the human side of it all, too,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
The emotions and all that.
Yeah.
And this particular story, I gotta say, it really keeps you on the edge of your seat.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I'm intrigued.
So it centers around this guy named Richmond Bash,
Okay.
and he wants to change Ghana.
Ambitious.
Yeah, he's got this really powerful message.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is how connected he is to the people, especially in those rural communities.
Yeah, it's important.
Right. Like, there's this one scene,
Okay.
it takes place in his childhood village in Kwanta,
Mhm.
and this elder, Mr. Oze, he really grills Richmond
How-
about whether he can actually deliver on his promises.
Oh, I see.
It's like that classic tension between hope and skepticism.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that feeling like, we've heard all this before, will it actually be different this time?
Right, right.
But what I like about Richmond is he doesn't shy away from that.
So what does he do?
He actually talks about how he wants to involve people in the whole process.
Interesting.
He's like, hold me accountable,
He's trying to address that gap between words and action,
Exactly.
which, let's face it, is a challenge for any politician.
Oh, totally.
Trying to balance those big dreams with, the actual realities of governing a diverse nation,
Yeah.
especially one like Ghana, right?
Uh-huh.
You've got
Yeah.
so many cultures, languages,
It's a melting pot, for
Oh.
sure.
and all sorts of economic realities, too.
Right. It's a lot to juggle.
And speaking of realities,
Yeah.
the story takes us on this whirlwind tour of his campaign.
Okay.
We see him at this huge rally in Accra.
Wow.
Yeah, it's massive.
So what's he talking about at the rally?
All the big issues that Ghanaians are facing,
Hmm.
youth unemployment,
Hmm.
healthcare, things like that.
Those are major concerns.
Yeah, it really hits home for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
And the way he talks about them, it's like you can feel the energy.
It sounds like it captures that feeling of a real political movement.
Oh, it totally does.
And the issues he chooses to focus on, that's strategic too.
Right. It's not random.
No, not at all.
It shows that he really understands what people are dealing with every day.
Yeah, like youth unemployment.
That's a big one.
Huge problem across Africa,
Mm.
and especially in Ghana with so many young people.
Right. I
You
guess
know,
so.
their population is booming.
It really makes you think about all the work that goes into crafting a campaign message.
Yeah, a lot of research goes into that. Right. And strategy.
Absolutely.
It's not just about giving speeches, though.
No, of course not.
There's a lot happening behind the scenes, too. Like,
you're
we see his team analyzing data.
interesting.
Yeah, and figuring out how to reach specific groups, like women, rural communities.
Smart.
Right. And that's where the whole incumbent thing comes in.
The incumbent.
Yeah, the current president.
Oh,
His party's been in power for a while.
I see.
So understanding their history, their strengths and weaknesses, that's all crucial for someone like Richmond.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's like, you got to know your opponent
Right.
to figure out how to beat them.
Exactly.
It really shows you how complex a campaign can be.
Oh, totally.
You've got the speeches, the policy, the strategy.
Mhm.
It all has to work together.
It's like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, and they're not just trying to win over their diehard supporters.
No, they need more than that.
They're also trying to reach those undecided voters.
Right. Those are the ones who can swing an election.
And maybe even, try to sway some people who usually vote for the incumbent.
That's the tough part.
Yeah. But of course, no campaign is perfect.
Sure.
There are always hurdles.
So what kind of hurdles does Richmond face?
Well, the story introduces this opposition group,
Okay.
and they're criticizing his policies, saying they're unrealistic.
Oh, that's a classic.
Right. Is that something that happens a lot in Ghanaian politics?
Oh, yeah. It's not unique to Ghana.
Really?
You see that kind of tactic everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like a standard move in the political playbook.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, you try to paint your opponent as out of touch.
Right. Like they don't know what they're talking about.
Exactly. Or that they're naive,
So how does Richmond's team handle that?
I'm curious, too.
Do they get all defensive?
Or try to tone down their message.
That's what I thought they might do.
Yeah.
But they actually do the opposite.
Really?
Yeah, they actually double down.
Wow.
They're like, yep, Bold change is exactly what Ghana needs.
Interesting strategy.
Right, and they frame their ambition as a strength,
Mm-hmm.
not a weakness.
So they're tapping into that desire for progress.
Exactly.
That feeling that things need to change,
Yeah.
which is a powerful sentiment, especially in a country like Ghana.
With a young population.
Right, they're the future.
It's like they're playing the long game.
It seems like it.
They're not just focused on winning this one election.
No, they're thinking bigger.
They're trying to change how people think about leadership.
Exactly.
It's pretty impressive.
It is.
So as the campaign heats up, we're taken to election night. And let me tell you, the story does not disappoint.
Really?
It's neck and neck with the incumbent.
Oh, wow.
The tension is like palpable.
I bet
You can
that.
just feel it.
Election nights are always nerve-wracking.
Right.
All that waiting, all the uncertainty,
Yeah.
not knowing if you're going to win or lose.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure.
And for the people of Ghana, too, right? Imagine being a voter.
Oh, absolutely.
You've cast your ballot,
Yeah.
and now you're just waiting to see what happens.
If the change you voted for is actually going to happen.
Exactly. And it's not just about individual hopes and dreams either.
No, it's much bigger than that.
It's about the direction of the entire country.
Yeah.
The policies that are going to affect millions of lives.
It's a huge responsibility.
So tell me, does Richmond pull through?
He does,
Bet.
but it's a close call.
Oh, man.
Really close.
So how does he react?
Well, his reaction is really interesting.
Okay.
He's not, like, bragging or anything.
No.
No, he's actually very humble about it. He says the win belongs to the people of Ghana.
Wow.
He's giving them the credit.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it shows a lot about his character.
He's not positioning himself as like a conqueror,
Yeah,
but more like a servant leader.
exactly.
Interesting.
And that sets the stage for the next chapter,
Which is
the inauguration,
okay.
where he officially becomes president
Right.
and has to start turning his promises into action.
That's a big transition.
It is.
Going from candidate to president.
From campaigning to governing.
Yeah, that's fascinating to me.
Me too.
We see him taking the oath of office, promising a new dawn for Ghana.
But the real challenges are just beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Governing is never easy.
I bet.
There are always obstacles.
So what happens next?
Well, that's what we're going to explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll see how Richmond tackles the complexities of governing,
Mm-hmm.
how he tries to turn those campaign promises into actual results,
And
and how he balances, keeping the people happy while making those tough decisions that leaders have to make.
this is going to be good.
It is.
So everyone, stay tuned because the story of Richmond Bash is far from over.
So that brings us to one of the most interesting parts.
You mean how Richmond's team deals with those attacks about his policies?
Yeah. The whole unrealistic thing.
Yeah, it's easy to just throw out labels like that.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
But coming up with actual solutions.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Exactly. And that's where Richmond's team really shines.
You're thinking about that scene in his office, right?
Yes. With Kwam.
Our campaign manager.
Yeah, and Amina, the communications director.
I felt so real.
Like you're actually getting a glimpse behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm. And we can't forget Kojo.
Oh, right. The policy advisor.
He's got such an important perspective.
They're not just, reacting emotionally
No.
to what the opposition is saying.
They're really thinking it through.
They're analyzing the criticism.
Trying to understand what's behind it.
Mm-hmm. And then coming up with a strategy to counter it.
It's like they're solving a puzzle,
Exactly. Instead of just, trying to deflect.
which never works.
No, it usually backfires.
So they acknowledge the challenges,
But they also make it clear that they're still committed to big changes.
and they keep emphasizing that their policies are about helping people.
Real people with real problems.
Right. Like in
Okay.
that rally in Accra.
Oh, yeah, that was powerful.
He doesn't just talk in general terms.
He gets specific.
He talks about those everyday struggles,
The things that people are actually dealing with.
like the lack of jobs for young people.
Mm-hmm. The difficulties of getting good health care.
Yeah, and how important education is.
Things that resonate with the crowd.
They know he gets it.
And it's not just about statistics.
No, he tells stories.
About real people he's met.
Struggles he's seen firsthand.
Makes it so much more powerful.
And authentic.
He's not just some politician.
No.
He's someone who understands their problems.
Who's been there.
Who wants to make things better.
It's a great balance.
Between that personal touch
And the demands of running a national campaign.
and don't forget his rural roots.
Oh, yeah, Nkwanta.
That connection isn't just some sentimental detail.
No, it's strategic.
It helps him build trust.
Especially with those voters outside the cities.
Yeah, ones who often feel forgotten.
It makes me think about that scene with Mr. Oze,
The village elder.
who challenges Richmond about keeping his promises.
It shows that tension between what people want.
And what's actually possible.
Right.
But Richmond's response is all about bridging that gap.
He talks about accountability
Transparency.
and how important it is to involve people in the process.
He's not promising a quick fix.
No, it's a journey.
And he wants them to be a part of it.
It's like he's saying, I'm not here to tell you what you need
I'm here to listen
to learn.
and to work together to build a better future for Ghana.
Exactly. And that approach, that willingness to engage.
It seems to be a key part of his success.
He's building a movement.
A coalition of people who believe in his vision.
And that leads him to victory on election night.
Right. But it's close.
Oh yeah, nail-biting finish.
Keeps you on the edge of your seat.
Makes you realize that even the best campaigns,
They can't control everything.
it's a reminder that democracy is unpredictable,
And it shows how divided Ghanaian society is.
even in a fictional story.
You can feel those fault lines.
Those different ideas about the future.
So how does Richmond react to this close win?
It's really nuanced.
Is he relieved?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
But there's also this awareness.
And the challenges ahead.
Remember, the story keeps going
To his inauguration.
where he becomes president.
And gives his big speech.
That scene is so powerful.
It really captures the weight of history, all those hopes and dreams resting on his shoulders.
What does he say to the people?
He talks about unity.
Purpose.
He knows there are divisions.
But he emphasizes the need to come together,
To heal.
to work towards a common goal.
He reminds everyone about his promises.
But he also says that real change takes time.
He's asking for patience.
He's transitioning from campaigner to statesman,
From the guy who rallies people
to the one who has to govern,
to make those tough choices.
the ones that might not make everyone happy. That's where the real test of leadership begins.
It's one thing to win an election,
It's another to actually govern
to make those promises a reality.
and to keep the people's trust.
Makes you think about what it takes to be a successful leader.
It's not just about charisma.
Or giving good speeches.
It's about integrity,
Resilience.
the ability to listen,
to learn.
and to make those hard decisions.
The ones that come with being responsible for an entire nation.
So could this work in other countries?
What do you mean?
Like, could Richmond's approach be a blueprint for other leaders?
That's a great question.
Are there universal principles of leadership?
Ones that go beyond culture and politics.
That's something we'll explore more in the last part of our deep dive.
We'll look at the key takeaways from Richmond's journey.
The challenges he faces as president,
And what we can learn from his story.
both as individuals
And as citizens.
who want to make a difference in the world. So we've seen Richmond win the election, but now comes the really hard part.
Yeah, actually governing.
Right,
Yeah.
going from those big campaign promises to,
Actually making them happen.
Exactly. And the story doesn't shy away from how complicated that is.
No, it doesn't. We see him having to deal with all these different groups
With different needs.
and having to make those tough decisions.
They're ones that come with being in charge.
You know what really stood out to me?
What's that?
His approach to decision-making.
Yeah, how he goes about it.
Like, there's this scene where he's with his cabinet
Mhm.
and they're arguing about this policy.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one.
It was intense.
You can feel the tension.
Everyone had such strong opinions.
And they're all looking to Richmond.
To see what he's going to do.
It's a big decision.
And he doesn't just, tell everyone what to do.
Or just go with the majority.
Right. He actually listens to each person.
Weighs the pros and cons.
And then makes a decision.
Based on what he thinks is best for the whole country.
It's that carefulness that sets him apart.
That willingness to really consider different points of view.
He's not just charismatic.
He's thoughtful.
Which brings us back to something we talked about before.
Emotional intelligence.
Yeah. It's not just about being right.
It's about how you communicate.
How you bring people along with you.
Even the ones who disagree.
And you see that in how he reacts to the election results, too.
He doesn't act like he's won everything.
No, he acknowledges that it was close.
And that the country is divided.
But he stresses the need for unity.
That's a powerful message.
It's like he's saying, look, we may have different ideas about politics.
But we're all in this together.
We're all Ghanaians.
And we have to work together.
It's that kind of leadership that gives people hope.
It goes beyond just politics.
It makes you wonder if this could work in other places, too.
In other countries.
With other leaders.
What do you think allowed Richmond to connect with people like that?
Well, it seems like it was a lot of things.
Like his connection to the people?
Especially in rural areas.
His vision for change?
His willingness to talk about the tough issues.
And his commitment to listening to everyone.
It's like he's not just leading from the top.
He's creating a space for everyone to be involved.
To work together.
And he's not afraid to show his human side.
Right, we see moments where he doubts himself.
Where he struggles.
Even where he cries.
It makes him relatable.
That scene where he goes back to his village.
After becoming president.
It was so moving.
He's thinking about everything that's happened.
And rededicating himself to serving the people.
It shows that even the most successful leaders,
they're still human.
they make mistakes.
They have doubts.
But they keep trying to do what's right.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Ghanaian politics through this story,
I think it's important to remember that even though it's fiction,
the ideas it explores are real.
the power of having a vision,
The importance of empathy.
what it really means to be a leader,
Those are things we can all learn from,
and apply to our own lives.
whether we're in politics
Right.
or not.
Because even in a world as complicated as politics,
One person's commitment to change,
can make a difference.
it can inspire others to believe in a better future.
And to work towards making that future a reality,